Long long long. I'm good. I'm good. I don't want it. You sure? Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna grab cookies. Yeah. Better cookies, right?
Good afternoon and welcome to today's Google Hangout. My name is Brandy Richard, President of the National Urban League Young Professionals, and I am here with a great group of panelists to discuss the Affordable Care Act and its implications for African Americans in particular. All of these influencers here with us today have had great success with their organizations in sharing more information about the Affordable Care Act, and we're going to get right into introductions of each one of them. So I'd like to introduce Acacia Salati, who is the Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships at U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. David Johns, who is the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans. Janae Ingram, who's the Executive Director of the National Action Network. Chanel Hardy, Senior Vice President for Policy, Executive Director, National Urban League, Washington Bureau. We also have Niobli Arma, Managing Director of We Collab. And we have a wonderful individual, Vaughn Alvarez, who has experience in enrolling in the marketplace, who's out of Atlanta, Georgia. Today's guests have a vested interest in the success of the Affordable Care Act, as it will both direct and indirectly affect the welfare of the communities that they represent. So we're going to get right into the discussion, and we will begin with Acacia, the Director of the Partnership Center at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, to provide a quick 101 on the Affordable Care Act to start our conversation.
Well, thank you, Brandy, and I'm so glad to be here. So basically, the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2010, and it's about making sure that people in America, individuals and families, have quality, affordable, and accessible health insurance. I tell people all the time across the country, the Affordable Care Act is about stories, because there's no one who isn't impacted by your health or knows someone who isn't impacted by their health. And at the end of the day, what the Affordable Care Act does, it creates a sense of clarity. It creates a sense of security for individuals and families. And so a couple of things that are going on that can help with that reassurance and that assurance is that, you know, if you are a person who's 26 years old, you can stay on your parents' health insurance. I get questions from people saying, well, wait a minute, what if my son is married? You know, what if my daughter is still in school? What if they have a job? It doesn't matter. You know, as long as you're still 26, you can stay on your parents' health insurance. Another thing is that the ability to be able to think about prevention. A lot of times in our community, we don't get the preventive care that we need because of the copay. But now with the Affordable Care Act, many things like cholesterol screenings, mammograms, seasonal flu shots, all those things are now free. And so people really need to take advantage of that.
Thank you so much, Acacia. To start this conversation off, it's not a secret that health disparities exist in minority communities. And so within the young adult population being the most uninsured, and that population is 18 to 34, what are some public health issues we should make aware to today's viewers?
Oh, sure. So I think that there are a lot of different health issues that are out there that are affecting specifically the 18 to 34 demographic. Acacia mentioned preventive care. I think when we think about healthcare, specifically in that age group, we don't think about the challenges that exist beyond that. But if you start to get screened early, you can prevent some of the other health issues. Cholesterol was one of the things Acacia mentioned. And a personal story for me, when I was in my late 20s, I found out that I had high cholesterol genetically. And I actually found that out through going to the doctor for a routine visit. So things last year, yes, exactly. Right. Exactly. So, you know, I think it's important for younger adults to think about not just what's going on now that they may or may not know about, because I didn't know that until I went for the routine physical, and then that was how I found out, and I was able to treat it through diet and exercise. But had I not known, it could have risen to levels and caused heart disease, which is prevalent in the African American community, along with HIV, diabetes. So these are things that we can really work to prevent long-term issues with, but also addressing the issue if you have it now.
to push on a point that Janae made, and she talked specifically about the larger segment, but if we look at the 18 to 24 demographic, half of all new infections of HIV occur in African American youth in that age range, right? Mm-hmm. So we spend a lot of time on college campuses and in high schools talking with young people about the importance of reducing the stigma that's associated with a lot of these diseases, including HIV and AIDS, but also the importance of getting tested, right? What we know and what the science has shown is that if you are tested and it indicates that you're positive early, you can treat it. You can find ways to address it. And that is not specific to HIV, but I think that it's important for us to acknowledge that when we think about African American youth, that they are disproportionately impacted in that particular way.
And I think that's the importance of getting covered. Part of the issue is that young invincibles, they think that they're going to live forever, that they're never going to get hurt, and so they don't get the coverage that they need. But we just want to make sure the enrollment ends on February 15th. You can go to healthcare.gov. If you don't have a computer or a laptop or iPad, you can call the 1-800-318-2596. That's 1-800-318-2596. Yeah, you have to get covered.
Absolutely. We do believe that we're invincible until we're not. And then we have to do something different. And that's especially important in the African American male community. And I know you work very closely with My Brother's Keeper. Can you address how we are communicating with African American males?
Yeah, appreciate the question. Similarly to the conversation we've been having, we know that African American men are disproportionately impacted in some significant ways with regard to health. Often it's said that African American men are tough to reach. But I think we have to reframe the opportunity and acknowledge that we have to go where they are. Mm-hmm. And so we spend a lot of time talking about the importance of having these conversations, of equipping the caring adults that show up in spaces where not only African American men, but African American women and those who would not feel comfortable fitting into either category, to be quite frankly, are able to access the information that they need. So that includes everything from faith-based institutions, right? There are a lot of youth pastors that end up serving as surrogates and what we call navigators to sort of help people understand the process of unlocking all of this information. We also show up at recreational centers where young people are participating in everything from hackathons to basketball tournaments, ensuring that everybody knows that this is critically important. It has implications in every way possible, not only with regard to health, but with regard to economics. If you aren't able to work because you're sick or you have some chronic disease, you're going to lose money. And the fact of the matter is that sometimes healthcare, when it's not preventable, when we don't address something when it's not preventable, can be extremely costly.
And I think, the thing is, like, I talk to a lot of moms because we know that women are more than likely going to be the people who are going to help choose the health insurance. But also, when you're talking about those groups of young men that David was talking about, particularly in states that have expanded Medicaid, they don't know that a lot of times. So they're not realizing that if you live in the District of Columbia, if you live in the state of Maryland, two states that have expanded Medicaid, if you make $15,000 or less, you're eligible, period.
I'll make one more point at the risk of being peer-snickety. We talk a lot about being our brother's keeper, but we also have to be our sister's supporter as well, right? And so when we think about the fact that African-American women as well as Latino women are being pushed out of schools and safe spaces in places like Atlanta, which has the highest trafficking rate in the country. There are some significant health implications that are specific to women as well. And so while we've talked about men, I didn't want to let the opportunity go without also acknowledging that there are some specific work around supporting our women and young girls as well.
Absolutely. 2 years ago, we had some issues with the site. In 2012, the first time the marketplace was open, it was somewhat of a challenge for people to gain coverage. And I'd like to go to Vaughn Alvarez to talk more about your experience and actually participating in the exchange, as well as your experience in registering for coverage.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Vaughn. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. My experience was pretty wonderful. I mean, with anything, you definitely have your ups and downs. I guess the good thing is that everybody was trying to register, so the lines on hold were a little lengthy, but everybody's trying to register. That's understandable. But once I got going, it was pretty great. Customer service was wonderful. Not only did they actually help me understand the plans, they helped me understand a little bit more about health insurance in general. They helped me actually choose the best plan for me, what made sense for my personal pockets. But I can honestly say that even today, if I have any issues or Any questions, I can call, get somebody on the phone. It's a very easy and enjoyable experience, even in terms of just paying my bill every month.
It's an enjoyable experience to pay your bill every month. That's awesome, Vaughn.
It is. You know why? Because there was a time where I didn't have health insurance, so I am glad that I am paying for something that's going to be able to keep me working. How about that?
Yes.
Chanel or Niobli, do you have any additional thoughts on that topic?
No, definitely. I mean, one of the things we've seen across the country is everyone has a unique experience as it pertains to the enrollment process. And so what we've tried to do is make sure that we're changing the dialogue to not only keep it positive, but make sure that we're not only talking about healthcare as sick care, but as I said earlier, as a preventative measure. And I know some folks would say that young adults don't plan, but young adults are planning, but in the midst of that planning, they're also prioritizing. And so it's our job as practitioners to make sure that health is a top priority as they're preparing for longevity in their lives.
Absolutely. So both of you have experienced the fact that health is a priority for young leaders, and that's part of what we're attempting to get across today. So I think that moves us into a conversation about the actual law itself and how it's being rolled out. And so, Acacia, David, Janae, how have you been able to share this information about the law with the African American community in particular?
So for NAN, we've been doing this across the country through our chapters. Each chapter has sort of a health facilitator. We've been going out and doing community fairs, using our relationships within the faith-based community to get the word out, using social media, talking to our youth and college division. We've been just talking about it with our members and using them sort of as advocates within the community. We're a very grassroots organization. So a lot of times the people who are our members are also, you know, within the community. They work in the community. They live in the communities that we reach. And so we really use them sort of to engage people around the issues of the law and getting people engaged around the deadline coming up. We've done it on social media. We've also done it a lot of information on our calls. We've had Tamia and other people from HHS come on our calls and talk about the law with our members. So we've been using a really grassroots method to get the word out.
The White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans has implemented a very similar strategy. We have a partnership with Johnson Publishing Company, Ebony Magazine, that has allowed us to produce what we've called African American Education Summits. So we've gone to more than 8 states across this country, hosting convenings that really provide platforms for young people like Vaughn to speak their own truth to power. And in that forum, we are able to invite navigators, individuals who work throughout Health and Human Services around the country to be able to enroll people on site and also answer whatever questions might exist. Similarly, we host a bi-weekly Twitter chat. AFAMED chat is the hashtag, and have used that as a platform to also disseminate information.
Okay, so do you believe that that's working?
I do, and I want to just say Janae made a really critical point when she was talking about advocacy, you know, and trusted messengers. At the end of the day, the people who are going to really hear this message are going to be people that they understand. I constantly say, you know, I can tell you all day long, you know, to get your seasonal flu shot, but I'm a government bureaucrat. But if your pastor says
You're someone who cares.
Yes, don't undermine your value.
But you know, if your pastor tells you that, if your Sunday school teacher tells you that, if your soror tells you that, it has a completely different impact.
So how have we been engaging faith leaders and fraternity and sorority leaders in the community to get the message out as well?
I think so. It's interesting that many of us carry these ties or connections to these organizations with us as a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. We have leveraged the organization through Kappa League and a couple of different auxiliaries to ensure, again, that everybody, every caring adult who has the opportunity to engage with a young person is equipped with all information to ensure that everyone's registered and covered by February 15th. Right, we sort of haven't taken a casual approach where we say friends don't let friends go uncovered, right? Just ensuring that everybody understands that this is something that's really important. The president spent a whole lot of time and energy ensuring that this bill was passed because of the importance that it has across the country. So while we're specifically talking about the impact in the African American community, this is something that's important for everybody.
And with the faith community, we've been doing things like talking about it from the pulpit, having the pastor sort of briefed on the specifics and, you know, when the deadline is, that sort of thing. And then having people in the church so that after service, people could immediately get more information, sign up. We've partnered with lots of different organizations, including Enroll America. So we've been doing this sort of after church service and during church service, incorporating it into the message and really understanding that healthy living is definitely a part of the faith way to go. I mean, God wants you to be healthy as well as, you know, spiritually well, you know, wise and everything else. But that's the health part of it is so critically important to just making sure that all of us can live our best lives.
And at the risk of being persnickety, something that I think comes up, at least when we have conversations in the faith space with Reverend Brendigard Mitchell, who runs the Office of Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnership within the Department of Education, is acknowledging the importance of mental health specifically. That's something that we don't talk enough about in the African American community. True. Often we say, just give it all to God. You can give it all to God and go to the doctor too. So there are, I would defer to Acacia on the details of it, but one of the things that we talk about is the ability to leverage mental health supports and services as included in the healthcare package as well. Right.
I mean, every single healthcare plan that you have has this group of essential benefits, and one of them is mental health. Another one is recovery from different types of addictions, and in our community, we need that. There are a lot of people who live in trauma. If you're growing up in a place where there's a lot of gang violence, there's a lot of violence, I mean, you're traumatized.
And not even that kind of trauma, but we now know too that prolonged exposure to poverty has physiological implications, right? And so all of it's important to acknowledge.
Right. Oh no. And I mean, and the same thing about addiction. I mean, a lot of times people are self-medicating for a lot of different reasons, and it's not something that we talk about as much. But this is a part of your essential plan. So if you get this plan on the Affordable Care Act, which is private health insurance, you're going to be able to get the tools and resources you need to make sure that you live a much healthier life.
Acacia, can you also touch on the point of preventative care for those people who don't have any issues right now and don't think that they may need health care in the same way as someone older or someone who has chronic health conditions?
You know, I think Vaughn said it very well when he's talking about sickness care into health care. I mean, currently what we have is sickness care. What we're trying to do is change it into health care. And what we need to do is that we need to think about health as 365 days a year. So it's not just about open enrollment seasons. It's about every day you taking control of your health, you doing what you need to be healthy. And so it starts very young. I mean, you know, all of us, our parents took y'all to the pediatrician, and you got your shots and everything. So it's a part of who you are. It's a part of what you do. But if you didn't have that, if your mother took you to the emergency room and now you've got this health insurance plan, it's a big sea change to be able to think about how do you think of prevention? How do you think about getting that cholesterol? How do you think about going and making sure that your diabetes or your sugar is checked, you know? So all of these things. But it means working with the faith community. It means working with grassroots organizations like NAN. It means working with HBCUs to be able to continue to talk up that message, because that's the only way that it's going to really drive down into the community and people can understand that there is something transformational happening in the healthcare.
That's great. Chanel, can you explain to us what the National Urban League in specific is doing around the healthcare issue and educating people in the community? Okay. Niobli, can you share a little bit of information with us about how you believe that we're getting this message out?
Definitely. And so one of the best ways, you know, we talked about it earlier, the young people are situated in different environments. And so sometimes, you know, it has to be at the church. You know, sometimes it has to be, you know, at the fraternity. And I want to joke with David. He mentioned Kappa Alpha Psi, so I have to mention the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.
You were all right until you did that.
So I had to. Another area that we could talk about where we have to reach young people is we have to be innovative and bold enough to go to social settings. We have to engage promoters, we have to engage DJs, because a subset of the young population, that's where they're at. And so we have to challenge our organizations and practitioners involved in this work with us. Wherever young people are situated, there should be a voice in that community that's talking about healthcare and preventative care.
Absolutely. So I'd like each of the panelists to give us one reason why all of the people who are watching today should run out and make sure that they have health care insurance before we wrap up this conversation. So I'll start with Acacia.
Okay. Do it for your mama and for your grandmama. They worry about you all the time. They're praying for you. So please, if not for you, for them, get affordable, accessible health coverage so they will not have to worry about you so much.
Janae.
I think, again, it goes back to living the best life that you can and making sure that you make healthcare a part of your life so that you don't have to turn to sick care, that you're not addressing issues when they arise, but really you're taking care of yourself all the time, that you're looking at your health, you're eating right, you're exercising, all of that to really live the best life that you can live.
David.
I'll add to Janae's point, and like the idea of doing it for your mama. But acknowledging, I think rather it's important to acknowledge that our bodies are always changing, right? And that while we live in the most ideal of circumstances, imagining that we'll have long lives that will be filled without any health issues, the reality is that we're continuing to change, and we need to be thoughtful about protecting ourselves to the greatest extent possible, right? When I was younger and glasses weren't cool, I had to wear glasses. Now that they're really cool and they make them in all kinds of different shapes and sizes, I can't get glasses, right? I say that sort of jokingly, but again, it's important to know that we are constantly changing, our bodies are constantly evolving, and we deserve to be protected in every way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Niobli?
So I believe we all have a purpose. Every day we're called to wake up and go do something great in the world. No matter what you're called to do, you can't do it if you don't have your health.
That is so profound, Niobli. Vaughn, I'm going to leave you with the last word.
Okay, I think it's simple. You know, you can't possibly love anybody else if you don't love yourself. So respect and love yourself enough to take care of yourself. Just love yourself. Simple.
Church.
Said, love yourself. So thank you so much to all of the panelists who have joined us today. We want to remind you to go to the health insurance marketplace. The deadline for open enrollment is Sunday, February 15th. So we need you to run out and enroll. Share this with all of your friends. Tweet about it, Facebook it, Instagram it. I'm sure we will be sharing Instagram pictures when this is over. Young adults up to 26 years of age can stay on their parents' plan. That's something that's important to note. Preventative services are provided in most plans, including physicals, STD testing, trips to the emergency room, and other things. You cannot be discriminated against based on pre-existing conditions, which is very important. 8 in 10 current customers can find coverage for $100 or less after tax credits. And if you need help to find a health insurance in-person assister, you can go to localhealth.healthcare.gov or call 1-800-318-2596. So localhealth.healthcare.gov. And we hope that you'll get covered under the Affordable Care Act. Thank you so much and have a great day.